We don't often use the main entrance to our house. Instead, we typically come in through the garage side door or the sliding glass doors that lead to the patio. On the right side of the entryway is the formal living room, kept spotless but hardly ever used. On the left, a hallway runs from the end of the entryway to 3 bedrooms, including our large master suite and a guest bathroom. The formal living room is dark thanks to the heavy curtains drawn shut, and it features a Thompson camelback couch against the back wall, with large wingback chairs on either side, all oriented toward a walnut coffee table. Until that day, I never paid much attention to this room. But late that morning, I found myself sitting in one of those wingback chairs, turned away from the archway between the entryway and the living room. It's in this chair that I often reflect on my life and assess the potential losses during Emily's absence. The thought of ending our rocky marriage brings up worries about mutual friends picking sides, losing our house, paying alimony for years, and watching half of my net worth vanish along with legal fees. Despite these concerns, dealing with Emily, who I describe as vindictive, seems unavoidable. While I was deep in thought, the side door opened, indicating Emily's return from grocery shopping. I realized too late that I should have pretended to be in our bedroom to avoid another argument if she caught me in the living room. Arguments are frequent, sparked by Emily's unwarranted criticism over trivial things, imaginary reasons, or no reason at all. I've come to see this as her way of keeping me off balance. Emily can drag out arguments for weeks over minor issues, and I always manage to find a way to placate her, thinking it's better to resolve things quickly. Living with constant tension is unbearable, so I aim to settle disputes as soon as possible, although the challenge is always in the short time before the next one begins. After a decade of marriage, the only solution I see is either passing away or getting a divorce. Still, I persistently try to improve things, mainly for my sanity rather than to make life easier for Emily. I heard the freezer door close, realizing she'd put away the frozen food. Expecting her to ask me to bring in the rest of the groceries, I braced myself for her commands and criticism. To avoid her for as long as possible, I remained still, waiting for her call or whistle. Her whistle, which sounds like calling a dog, has become almost unbearable. Instead of her voice, I heard her light footsteps approaching the entryway. Had I looked, I would have seen her stop at the tiled entryway floor, peering down the hallway to make sure she was alone. Emily, quietly waiting, considered calling me from the car before coming inside but felt secure, assuming I was diligently working on the gazebo in the backyard. Within seconds, I heard her cell phone chirp as she dialed a number. Now in the entry, just a few feet behind the chair where I sat, Emily talked to her father about plans for Thursday afternoon. She mentioned calling him at work after 1 o'clock and discussed the logistics of their meeting. Still unnoticed, I listened as Emily went over the details with her father, ending with a cheerful goodbye. I heard the flip phone close and her footsteps retreat across the carpet toward the sliding glass door. Whistling and calling out to the gazebo project he'd been working on in the backyard, she seemed oblivious to my labored breathing and the pounding of blood in my heart and head. Tense situations were nothing new to me, and I relied on automatic responses honed from my time in the Army and other experiences. In such moments, the first rule was not to panic unless actively under attack. Use what you know to your advantage. Choose the right moment to engage. Maintain a blank face. Control your breathing, and act normal. I stood and walked into the den saying, "I'm here." I was in the bathroom. "I've got to run to the hardware store to get parts for the gazebo." As I crossed through the den toward the kitchen and the side door, avoiding eye contact with her, I marveled at my ability to speak those words and my self-control, to avoid reacting violently as I passed by, noting the redness in my face. She advised me to wear a hat, concerned about a possible sunburn, saying she didn't want to see my skin peeling off in a couple of days. She also mentioned the groceries that needed to be brought in before I went anywhere, and emphasized not being gone all day. After dropping her phone into her purse on the kitchen counter, Emily went out to inspect my work on the gazebo, leaving criticisms for when I returned. Emily's communication style was typical, mostly giving instructions and offering implied or explicit criticism. As she went into the backyard, I grabbed her phone, checked the last dialed number, memorized it, and returned the phone to her purse. After putting away the groceries, I left in my small pickup truck but didn't head to the hardware store. I stopped at a local park a couple of blocks away. For the first 15 minutes, I replayed the short conversation in my mind, wanting to ensure I had every word memorized to make notes. There was no doubt about its meaning. I couldn't shake the feeling that my wife was cheating on me, possibly right under my nose, maybe even in our own bed while I was out earning a living. The thought filled me with rage, as it seemed like I was unknowingly supporting her betrayal. Who was this guy she was calling Daddy? It definitely wasn't her real dad. The phone number had a local area code, while her parents lived far away in California. Early in our marriage, she sometimes called me Daddy in intimate moments, but that stopped a while back. At the time, I thought it might have been a hint that she wanted kids, but a few years into our marriage, we agreed not to have any. She was definitely a daddy's girl, though. I started thinking about what I should do next. Her lover would likely come in through the back gate on Thursday, probably walking down the alley. I considered catching him there, but I wondered how I'd deal with my unfaithful wife if he was on foot. His car had to be somewhere close by. It hit me then. The lover would probably park at the nearby park. I realized I needed to find out who this person was. The most obvious plan was to call the number from her cell. Having someone else call, pretending it was a mistake, seemed like a good idea. A woman would probably get more information, so who could make that call? Who else might know what's going on? The answer was clear. Emily's best friend was Kate, and if Kate didn't know, I doubted anyone did. Emily's sister probably wasn't in the loop since they'd been distant ever since her sister's messy divorce and falling out with the family. Could I talk to Kate? I'd known her as long as Emily had, and Kate had always been friendly toward me. But women tend to be more loyal to each other than to the spouses. Kate was married to Tom, who was 15 years older, and they seemed like the perfect couple. I figured Kate would tell Tom almost everything. But would she tell him about Emily? Did I consider Tom a friend? We weren't very close, but Tom was a stand-up guy. I thought he would have told me if he knew about something like this. I decided to approach Tom. That meant heading over to the golf course, where Tom, being semi-retired, volunteered on Saturdays as a goodwill ambassador in exchange for free golf during the week when the course was less busy. On my way there, I carefully planned my approach. I couldn't just come out with it. What if it got back to Kate and then to Emily? I needed to be sneaky. While riding in a golf cart with Tom, checking the conditions at the 7th hole, I broached the topic with a hypothetical question. I asked how he'd handle a confidential conversation, whether he'd keep it to himself or share it with Kate. Tom shot me a curious look and kept driving a few yards more. I explained, asking if he and Kate always shared what they heard from others, even if it was told in confidence. It was just a hypothetical question. Tom stopped the cart on the grass and turned to face me with an almost expectant look. "Do you have a specific question for me?" he asked, maintaining that strange, intense expression. I asked Tom if he could keep our conversation confidential if I were to ask him something. He promised not to bring it up unprompted, but if Kate asked, he wouldn't lie. That was his rule. I assured him I could keep a secret, but I wouldn't deceive my wife's friend. It was clear Tom knew something, and I had a feeling he wanted to share it with me. After collecting my thoughts, I directly asked if he knew anything about my wife having an affair. I rephrased it to make it clearer, asking if he knew about any affairs Emily was currently having or had in the past. Tom's response poured out like a dam breaking. He recounted an incident from New Year's at the Holden's party. Everyone was outside getting ready for the fireworks when Kate got sick from the champagne. Even though she rarely drank, she went upstairs to the bathroom. While getting sick in the toilet, she heard someone jiggling the doorknob. After washing up and leaving the bathroom, she heard noises from down the hall where it turns toward some bedrooms. Worried someone else might be sick, she walked over to check. Emily was at the end of the hallway, against the wall, with some big guy. There's no nice way to say it. He had her pinned against the wall with her legs wrapped around his waist. Emily saw Kate standing there, smiled, and waved her off as if to say, "Get lost." On the way home, Kate told Tom everything. Kate and Emily needed to talk it over before doing anything drastic, since they were longtime friends. I suggested Kate tell you immediately, but in the end, Kate had a chat with your wife. Emily claimed the incident with Jack Thompson was a one-off, driven by drinks, a fight with you, and Jack's aggressive advances. Jack was known to be a bully who married into money. Kate, aware of Jack's reputation, asked me to keep it under wraps, not wanting to ruin your marriage over a single incident. However, I told Kate that if you ever asked me directly, I wouldn't lie. Carrying this secret for the past 5 months has been a heavy burden. Finally, it was all out in the open, and while it was a relief, I felt a deep sympathy for what I was going through. I'm sorry you have to deal with this, man, Tom said. But sadly, it wasn't over yet. Kate had been deceived. Emily had continued seeing Jack, or maybe even moved on to someone else by now. I overheard her talking to him on the phone just an hour ago. Let's head back to my place and discuss what Kate has to say, Tom suggested. We left the golf course in separate vehicles and drove to Kate and Tom's home. He broke the news to his wife, and she sat down in tears. Kate had hoped for the best in my and Emily's relationship, and was willing to help however she could. But finding out the affair was still ongoing changed her. She felt betrayed by Emily, realizing she had based her actions, or rather, inaction, on a lie. Kate, there's something you could do for me, I said. I checked Emily's phone, and I have the number she called. Could you give him a call, pretend it's a wrong number, and try to get his name? I need to know who she's involved with now. Kate, a remote editor with a PhD in English literature and a background in theater, was perfect for the task. She crafted the call using her best acting and social skills, deciding on her flawless English accent that always left an impression. Dialing with the phone on speaker, she heard, "Hi, this is Jack Thompson." Kate blinked. "Sorry, wrong number." "Well, that was unsatisfying," she remarked, her plan unraveling. Still, the truth was evident. Emily hadn't ended things with Thompson, adding another crucial piece of information. We discussed our next steps, and I insisted on catching the pair during their upcoming Thursday rendezvous to gather ample evidence. I wanted to confront my wife armed with solid proof, catching her in the act and exposing the lies she had used to cover it up. I was hesitant to hire a detective due to the cost and the uncertainty of Emily's actions before Thursday, so I needed a quick way to collect evidence. We sat in contemplative silence for a minute or more. Kate suggested the idea of a mole. She proposed getting someone like Emily's best friend to extract the truth from her. I was skeptical, but Kate insisted, "Never underestimate an angry woman. I've had enough of her and the way she's treated all of us. I think I can come up with a story that will make her spill everything." Over the next hour, we devised a plan. Kate would urgently call Emily, claiming she needed help, and arrange to meet for coffee on Sunday morning. Tom would modify Kate's old purse to hold a video camera, capturing every word and facial expression. By noon on Sunday, we expected to have substantial information. Kate called Emily, referencing a situation similar to the New Year's party. Emily agreed to the meeting, secretly pleased by her friend's newfound assertiveness. Kate arrived early at the coffee shop, picking a table under an awning and setting up her purse with the hidden camera. She ensured the angle was right and did audio tests, positioning chairs strategically. The air was still, eliminating the chance of wind noise. She set it up for one-button recording, with a 16 GB card providing plenty of storage. Tom had cleverly secured the camera and purse with Velcro straps, disguising the lens and mic holes within the purse's pattern. Kate was ready when Emily showed up. Kate asked Emily to grab coffee, saying she'd save their spot in the most secluded area. Kate pressed the button when Emily returned with the drinks, quickly confirming it was recording. They quickly covered the basics, and Kate began her story. She explained her predicament to Emily, saying a guy was interested in her and she didn't know what to do. He was attractive, and it had been ages since she and Tom were intimate. Kate shared that Tom completely trusted her and that she'd never cheated on him. However, she admitted she was feeling tempted now and sought Emily's advice. Kate wanted to know how Emily felt after the New Year's party and asked if she regretted it. Emily encouraged Kate, saying, "Go for it, girl. Honestly, I can't believe you haven't done this sooner. Tom's a nice guy and all, but honey, he's past his prime. You're still young and cute. I've always admired your looks. I never understood why you stick with Tom." Kate was taken aback by Emily's lack of remorse and asked if the New Year's incident was truly a one-time thing. Emily confessed, "Honey, I won't lie to you. I had to tell you that then, or you might have let it slip. But now that you're in a similar spot, we can talk about this. In fact, we'll have some real juicy discussions. Emily, spill everything. I'm so into this now that I'm thinking of doing it myself. How did it start with you and Jack? Are you still at it? You should see the look in your eyes. If you're not excited now, I bet you will be in a few minutes." Emily proceeded to detail her encounter with Jack at Holden's Halloween party. She described how they met 2 months earlier, with Jack eyeing her at the party. Emily explained that they discreetly met on the landing and ended up in the bathroom. She recounted the passionate encounter, emphasizing Jack's qualities. Emily confessed she was still involved with Jack and had plans to meet him next week in our bed. When Kate asked if she felt guilty about me, Emily shrugged it off. "Kate, husbands aren't lovers. They're there to serve different purposes. Paul does what I tell him, and that's enough for me," she said, sounding dismissive. Emily elaborated on her approach, describing how she saw me as a compliant provider who simply followed her orders. She even mentioned using tricks like wearing perfume to throw me off the scent of her infidelity. Emily went so far as to liken me to a little gay friend, someone docile she could manipulate with ease. She relished knowing my whereabouts at all times, never worrying about me stumbling upon her escapades. Curious, Kate asked if Emily had been with other men, and Emily casually admitted she'd lost count. The first was someone she picked up at a supermarket in our first year of marriage. He never learned her real name, and they hopped from hotel to hotel for 6 months until he became too needy. Emily mentioned having to be careful with young guys, and after him, there were several one-night stands, including a traveling salesman into kinky stuff. He was ideal because he only visited occasionally. She said Jack had been around longer than most, describing him crudely, and noted he was married to a clueless wife who worked while he played. Emily liked being in control of when they met. Emily then turned the conversation to Kate, asking about her supposed fling, and Kate launched into her prepared tale about a made-up lover named Rod. Emily believed every detail and encouraged Kate to embrace it fully. Kate was taken aback by Emily's callousness and doubted she could treat Tom the way Emily treated me. Emily lectured Kate on taking charge in relationships, comparing herself to an alpha in the animal kingdom. She encouraged Kate to dominate Tom, promising that freedom and control would follow. She suggested starting with Rod, enjoying every moment, and assured Kate that Tom would naturally fall into a submissive role. Emily dismissed concerns about STDs, asking Kate about contraception. Kate explained she usually made sure the guy used protection, but with Jack, his forcefulness made it different. Kate recalled being scared once when it hurt to pee, but the doctor said it was just irritation from roughness. She also recounted contracting gonorrhea once, which made her more cautious. Kate asked how Emily kept it hidden from me, and Emily explained she'd let me go play guitar with my friends, giving me the illusion of choice, which led to a confrontation when she needed antibiotics. Eager to return the recording to Tom and me, Kate thanked Emily and left. Watching the video later, we were all horrified. Kate and Tom barely recognized Emily, who had never shown such a harsh side in front of others. While I was shocked, I wasn't entirely surprised, knowing how far Emily could go. Kate brought up Maria Thompson, worried about her knowledge of Jack's infidelity. She was conflicted about informing Maria about Emily, fearing it might blow the cover. Kate described Maria as visibly unhappy with her husband's reputation as a bully, and wondered if she was too intimidated to act. She thought reaching out to Maria might disrupt her plans and asked for help handling it. Kate thanked us for our support, promising to keep us out of any further complications. She urged me not to do anything rash. I acknowledged my mistakes over the last decade, but reassured them I wasn't planning anything violent. I promised to handle the situation my way and asked for complete confidentiality, advising everyone not to answer if Maria called, taking full responsibility. Later that evening, Kate contacted Maria Thompson and introduced herself, recalling their interactions at Holden's parties. She checked if Maria could speak freely before revealing that Jack was cheating with someone Kate knew. Kate expressed regret, but emphasized Maria's right to know. Silence followed, broken by sniffles and sobs. Maria vented her frustration, mentioning past issues Jack swore were behind them. She had taken him back on his promise, warning she'd leave if he repeated his mistakes. Kate offered support, willing to help however Maria decided. Appreciative, Maria outlined her resolve. Jack would never share her bed again. She had a prenuptial agreement ready to leave him with nothing in case of proven infidelity, describing him as good for nothing but social events and extramarital affairs. Maria was resolute in her decision to ensure Jack faced the consequences. When I offered to gather more evidence, she agreed to stay calm until she had it in hand. Plans were made for someone to collect preliminary proof from my office the next day. Kate arranged a meeting and contacted me at work, setting an appointment at her office on Monday at 1 p.m. When I arrived at Kate's office, I introduced myself to Mrs. Thompson, the wife of the man involved with my wife. I placed a video camera on her desk, queued up the relevant section, and played the recording. Although the screen was faint, the audio was crystal clear. As Mrs. Thompson listened and began to cry, I offered a comforting gesture, acknowledging that she was all too familiar with her husband's behavior. Afterward, I shared my plan with Maria, offering her the chance to join but making it clear it was optional. Maria revealed the years of intimidation she had suffered and expressed a strong desire to turn the tables and make her husband pay. When she asked about the potential for violence, I admitted things could get messy, but assured her I had no intention of causing harm. After the meeting with Maria, work became a dreaded distraction. Emily's words from the video echoed in my mind, cutting deep. While I admitted there was some truth in what she said, I justified my conciliatory nature, understanding how she saw me as weak. Despite the pain, I thought about showing a different side of myself on Thursday, wondering how Emily would react if I took a more assertive approach. I had no illusions about reconciliation, knowing that trust between us was shattered beyond repair. Tuesday and Wednesday were marked by low productivity at work as I carefully considered every possible scenario. The complexity of variables reminded me how fragile even the best-laid plans could be. I pondered multiple outcomes, trying to anticipate what might happen. Thursday would demand quick thinking, and I spent time honing my physical abilities in preparation. At home, tension hung thick in the air, and our conversations were limited to necessities. Emily, usually so confident, noticed my recent behavior and tried to figure out what was wrong to regain control. Ironically, she was also looking forward to Thursday, curious about what insights her meeting with Jack might bring. On Tuesday night, while Emily was in the shower, I searched my dresser drawers for an old keepsake from my grandfather. Both my father and grandfather had military backgrounds. Grandpa had brought back a set of steel knuckles from a German soldier as a war trophy after Normandy. As I held the cold, menacing steel, I remembered my grandpa's warning about their use, but also his acknowledgement that they might come in handy one day. It seemed that day was nearly upon me. This felt like a war. Emily and her lover were playing dirty, and I planned to turn the tables with a hearty breakfast on Thursday, knowing I'd skip lunch but hoping to slow down my rival. Pacing in my office, I prepared items in the guest bedroom, ready for Emily's choice of waiting in the backyard or coming back inside after opening the gate. Either way, I could adapt. Manipulating the steel knuckles on my desk, I paced, feeding my controlled anger. By 1 o'clock, I had changed into jeans, a t-shirt, and sturdy running shoes. After checking my pockets for my cell phone, keys, knuckles, and wallet, I called Emily from my desk phone to preempt her call. The conversation was calm and non-threatening, as I explained I had meetings and might be unavailable, hinting at a possible delay in returning home. Emily took this as a sign of my returning docility, relaxing with the thought. Perhaps she'd reward me with some cool-down makeup closeness later. That evening, she prepared to meet her lover, and they drove to the park in about 20 minutes. Loverboy's car wasn't there, so Maria dropped him off, and he jogged to the house, slipping in through the side gate. Positioned behind a photinia bush at the end of the house, away from the garage, I waited, nervously checking the time on my muted phone. At 1:45, Emily emerged in the backyard, wearing a string bikini, and headed for the back gate. After unlocking it and checking the alley, she closed the gate and lounged under the pecan tree, signaling me. Leaving the side gate ajar, I slipped back through the opening, circled to the front door, and used my key to enter. Stepping over the spot where my wife's betrayal had been revealed just days before, I walked inside. In the spare room, I grabbed a cordless drill and some hardware, then went into the master bedroom. In less than a minute, I installed a hasp on the inside of the door, leaving a lock hanging. I wedged a small piece of wood between the door edge and the jamb to prevent it from closing, just in case my wife tried to shut it. Heart pounding, I took the drill to the guest room, picked up the video camera, slipped the brass knuckles onto my right hand, and waited. There was so much that could go wrong. I might have forgotten a step, Emily could have unlocked the gate earlier, or her lover could have shown up too soon. Thankfully, none of that happened. With measured breaths, I awaited the final confrontation, ready to execute my plan on my terms. Standing there with brass knuckles on my right hand and a video camera in the other, I peered through the slightly open guest bedroom door. The dark hallway might affect the video quality, but the audio would capture everything I needed. As the sliding glass door moved, I heard Emily's laughter mingling with a deep male voice, which made my skin crawl. Imagining his hands on her, I caught sight of my wife, her bikini top already off, leading her lover into our master bedroom without bothering to shut the door. I followed at a distance, still recording, determined to capture everything. Kneeling by the door, I watched Jack embracing Emily as she closed her eyes and unbuttoned his shirt. Carefully, I set the video camera on the dresser inside the door, ensuring it recorded the scene unfolding on our bed. The waiting was agonizing, but I needed undeniable evidence, something she couldn't deny. As I backed away from the door, my anger simmered, kept in check for the moment. Through quick peeks, I saw them entangled, now completely undressed. With an entire afternoon ahead of them, they leisurely indulged in their passion. Outside the door, I heard Emily call Jack "Daddy," confirming her twisted attachment. The thought of confronting them filled me with a mix of dread and anticipation. Jack's eager voice reached me next, followed by Emily's cries of pleasure, a sound I'd never heard from her before. They began moving together, uttering curses and incoherent sounds. That was enough. I touched the brass knuckles for reassurance and silently approached the bed. Emily saw me just before I forcefully struck Jack in the ribs, sending him flying off her. Screaming, she accused Jack of assaulting her. Jack, stunned, quickly reverted to his bullying nature, preparing to confront me. I stepped back as Jack rounded the far corner of the bed. Misreading my movement as retreat, Emily, now kneeling on the bed, clutched the sheets, shouting for me to leave and not to hurt Jack. I shifted my weight, took a running step, and slammed into Jack's chest, driving the brass knuckles into his solar plexus. We crashed to the floor, my full weight pressing on his chest. In moments of breathlessness, nothing else mattered. Jack gasped, a high-pitched whine escaping his lips as he struggled for air, panic in his eyes. I sat up, straddling him, watching as his hands scrabbled on the floor, seeking support to breathe. I delivered the final blow, raising my fist high and bringing the steel down hard on Jack's terrified face. Bones crunched under the impact, blood gushed from his nose, and he was left choking, incapacitated. Satisfied, I rose and walked toward the door, content with this first round. Ignoring Emily's screams, I heard her pleading for help, thinking I was leaving. It fit with my plan for psychological warfare. I kicked the small piece of wood from the door jamb, closed the door, and locked the hasp. Turning to face Emily, I watched her expression shift from anger to frantic realization that she was trapped, naked, with an unpredictable version of her husband. Her voice softened, and she began pleading. "Paul, oh Paul, I know it looks bad, but he forced me. He's a bully. He threatened to hurt me and you. He said he'd ruin you to have me. I didn't want this." I approached the bed slowly, maintaining a cold, steady gaze. "Shut up," I commanded. "You're lying. I know you've been with him for months." I turned my attention to Jack, who lay on the floor, gurgling and struggling. I needed him hurt, not dead. I rolled him to his side near the iron bedstead to let the blood drain. Retrieving 5 pairs of handcuffs from the dresser, I secured Jack's ankles and wrists to the bedstead. Returning to Emily, I pulled her legs off the bed, cuffed her hands behind her back, and led her into the bathroom, placing her on the toilet. "Now, you're going to tell me everything," I said, emphasizing the brass knuckles on my fist. I wanted the whole story, how she met him, why she thought this betrayal was okay, and details of her affairs over the years. We had all afternoon to go through her confession. Emily considered her options, knowing I wouldn't spend time with her lover. I knew some of her secrets, but she didn't know how much. Could she spin the truth to sound less treacherous? Did she dare lie? Emily hesitated, claiming she never meant for things to get so out of control. She talked about how an aggressive guy had approached her at a party hosted by the Andersons and lured her upstairs, catching her off guard with no one around to help. I pressed her for details, asking, "Which party was that?" She speculated that Kate or Tom might have been the ones to expose her secret. She insisted Kate had only witnessed what happened at the New Year's party, but I reminded her that it was Halloween when she was with that man, over 20 times. I wanted to know who might have revealed her secret. With a defiant look, Emily said, "You'd be surprised. How many people do you think Loverboy has told? Maybe it was one of them, but that doesn't matter. Was it Kate? That woman? I'll tear her apart. But I know something that could ruin her marriage, and I won't hesitate to use it." After Emily shared details about Kate's fictional lover Rod, she tried to take credit for inventing him to fool me. She described how they planned conversations to gather information, with Kate recording everything and keeping the footage on multiple DVDs as leverage. Emily explained that Kate hadn't initially told her anything, and no specific details were revealed by Kate. I pointed out that I'd learned about Emily's extensive history during a video chat. I remembered her phone call to her lover last Saturday in the entryway, where she openly expressed affection for him, unwittingly revealing everything about her past. Satisfied that I had enough evidence, I told her that any future communication would be through my lawyer and that she would be served legal papers soon. Needing to consult an attorney about our situation, I took out my phone and called Maria to manage things. After a brief chat, I chuckled and hung up. I marched Emily back into the bedroom to show her the sorry state of her lover, naked, handcuffed, wheezing, and covered in blood, almost making her vomit. I placed her on the bed, turned off the video camera, unlocked the bedroom door, and opened it for Maria, who had been waiting outside in her car. "Well, Maria, I saved some of him for you. His face isn't much to look at now, though. Here's his latest lover, my soon-to-be ex-wife, Emily. Anything you want to say to her?" Maria approached Emily, who sat on the bed and slapped her hard across the left cheek, evening out the red marks on her face. "You fool!" Maria spat. "I can't believe you threw yourself away for him." She gestured at the man on the floor. Turning to me, Maria pondered, "What should we do with him now? I'm tempted to toss him out naked and see how long it takes her to find another companion. Get it? Companion." I expressed relief that she'd preserved his tool for me. I mentioned having a razor-sharp new hunting knife and joked about cutting off his manhood to present to Emily, who seemed to adore it. I even considered keeping his balls locked up for the town's safety. I planned to enforce my prenup, tightening the screws, as he'd get nothing if caught cheating. We agreed to take him to the hospital, spinning a tale about finding him injured in the garage to ensure his cooperation. Maybe I'd throw him a few scraps. Regarding Emily, I mentioned her attachment to her father, wondering if there was more to their relationship during her upbringing, though I lacked proof. In a messy divorce, her father might disinherit her, as he did her sister, to protect his reputation and inheritance. Even after the divorce, I'd keep those intriguing videos to hold over her if necessary, keeping her in line. I told her to get dressed, take her car, and find somewhere to reflect, warning her that her ATM and credit cards wouldn't work. I handed her a quarter, sarcastically saying it was for a two-bit fancy woman. I maintained a distant friendship with Maria, occasionally reaching out when feeling low, both of us wary of new relationships after being burned. I acknowledged the harshness of my treatment of Emily, realizing it wasn't who I truly was. But in situations like this, akin to war, cruelty can surface. I vowed never to be in such a position again. However, I had no regrets about Jack's battered face. Maria's insurance covered his basic repairs, and she cut him loose with a bit more money than the prenup required. His attempts to charm women proved difficult.